What is going on, Arizona sports fan family? How are we doing out here today on this Wednesday evening, ladies and gentlemen? We're here to talk about the Arizona Cardinals and are we going to be the last to strike and getting our head coach, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome in. Appreciate everybody for tuning in on this lovely Wednesday. If you could definitely do me a huge favor, smack the like button on this video and obviously subscribe for more Arizona Cardinals content. We're on the road to 12K, ladies and gentlemen. Now, I do got a special guest today. We're going to talk to a Indianapolis Colts fan today because we got some mutual interest, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm very curious to go ahead and pick his brain and figure out, where he lands or where they're going to land or where he thinks the Colts are going to land, because obviously they know a lot more than we would as Cardinal fans. But big shout out to the people that are currently in the chat. What's up, everybody? Let me go ahead and get this contribution here out of the way. What's up, RV Davey? Thank you so very much. He says, let's get Harbaugh. I don't know. I don't think Harbaugh's an option anymore. I truly don't, but I appreciate the contribution, my guy. Thank you so very much. All right, let's get this started here. Let me bring in Derek from Bring the Juice podcast. Brother, man, what's going on, man? How you doing?
Hey, I'm doing well, man. How about you?
Good. Can't complain. Well, obviously, I'm glad you got on here because me and your team, and right, we have some mutual interest with some coaching candidates, and me and you are the last people standing in terms of, not getting our head coach yet. So I want to go ahead and pick your brain a little bit in terms of what have the Colts been doing this past month? Is there any surprises that you don't, or the Colts didn't actually pursue that you would want them to?
Well, I mean, what hasn't the Indianapolis Colts done over the last month? They've interviewed so many people. I'm surprised I didn't get a call, man. I mean,
That's
honestly,
fair.
It's at that point right now where I think the interview count for the first round was 15. So that was insane. That's an insane amount of people. And it far and away eclipsed every other team. I don't even think another team even cracked 8.
No.
And the Colts are out here interviewing half the head coaching candidates across the entire league. So there's a lot going on. And even still now, as we're still in this second interview process, I mean, I wish I could give you some more answers, man. But at this point, I think Colts fans are just like you guys, just kind of not really in the loop. We have no idea what direction this is going. And I'm sure we're going to talk more about who's the favorites and whatnot. But over the last month, man, I mean, I'll tell you what, the one guy that I really wanted was Ben Johnson. Obviously, the return to Detroit, that was a huge damper on me, because that was the one that I felt like Indy could have really used. I think a lot of teams wanted Ben Johnson, but
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, as far as candidates go, I think we've interviewed everybody that I really wanted. I know I saw your comment with Harbaugh.
Yeah.
obviously from what we heard is we thought Denver might be in the mix for Harbaugh's too, because they were trying to talk with him, but obviously nothing got done there. But I don't even think the Colts really even talked to Harbaugh. I don't think he was interested.
Yeah.
So, I mean, at this point, I think the Colts have interviewed everyone that I kind of really want, and everyone that I would want is in the second interview process right now.
Okay. Well, that's good. I mean, I think the Cardinals are kind of in the same boat. Obviously, I think you guys take the cake with the amount of interviews that you've done, but we at least have like 8 to 9, but like we're still out of the loop as well. And I think we're all kind of getting a little antsy. Now, I'm not sure if you've been following Cardinal fans or anything like that, but we were very, very we thought at one point we might have had a chance to get Sean Payton, but obviously the Broncos ended up going ahead and swiping him away. And then it just kind of crushed the dreams of the Arizona Cardinal fans. But now I guess we can really, focus on to see who is going to be the next option for the Arizona Cardinals moving forward. Now, Harbaugh was also somebody that I would have liked as well, but just that whole thing was just a weird situation. He just ended up moving back, and then there was interest again from him, the Broncos, and then he said no, and it's this whole thing. But let's dive into two people that our teams have mutual interest, and I believe that these both teams are moving on to the next spot. Let's first talk about Aaron Glenn. Now, I did see this tweet here from Jonathan Jones. Says this: the Colts are bringing in Lions defensive coordinator Aaron Glenn for a second interview tomorrow for their vacant head coaching position, sources say. Now, he interviewed with us as well, but we haven't interviewed him the second time. What do you know about him? Do you know a little bit more than we do?
I don't really know anything right now. And to be honest with you, man, when I heard that news, I rolled my eyes and I'm just like, really? Why are we doing this? Yeah. Why? It makes no sense to me because, listen, I don't want to bring anybody down. I don't like doing that. But this is talking about the coach of your team for the next 5, 10, 15 years, you hope.
Yeah.
And this guy's defense was the worst defense in the NFL this last year from a yardage standpoint. I just don't understand. And from the candidate, which we're about to talk about here in a few minutes, I'm sure, because the Cardinals are about to interview him. When it comes to all the other qualified candidates that you have interviewed, the Colts have interviewed 7 before this guy that they're about to interview tomorrow. And why is it that they're now interviewing an 8th? They said from reports said they were going to interview 7 people. Now it's up to 8. Who knows if it's going to be 9, 10, 11 by the time they decide that they're just going to say, screw everything. We're just going to interview everyone that we interviewed the first time and second time. I don't know at this point. I don't know. They might just be covering the idea that maybe you guys jump the gun and you guys just hire Callahan tomorrow and then it makes their decision easier. I have no idea. But the fact that the Colts are interviewing Aaron Glenn now, after you just had Callahan in the building, you just had Steichen in the building, you just had Morris in the building, I don't understand it, because I feel like all 3 of those guys could really help your team, but yet you're wanting to interview Aaron Glenn again. I just don't understand what they're doing right now.
Dude, honestly, the way that you're feeling is exactly how we feel too. Like, there's this running joke going on Twitter saying, oh, the Arizona Cardinals are bringing in, a general manager from Taco Bell, where we're going to go. We're literally trying to go with everybody at this moment. Like, I think you guys feel exactly the same way that we do too. Like, we just want to get it done. We want to see who the next guy is so we can obviously, look for the future. And obviously, we've been through a lot this last month, because I truly did think that by last week we were going to get our head coach, and it just didn't happen. But I guess let's move on over to Brian Callahan, because that is another person that you just mentioned here. But he is going to did he interview with you guys today, right?
Yes.
Okay, that was the second time, and he's got an interview with us tomorrow. What are your thoughts on Brian Callahan? It looks like you want him over Aaron Glenn, right?
Yeah. Ever since Ben Johnson was off the table, and when I heard that Callahan was interested in becoming a head coach, immediately he became my favorite. Because I like his quarterback resume. He has worked with a lot of great quarterbacks in this league, has helped them develop into quarterbacks that they've become. Has been around a lot of great things. I know he hasn't done a lot of play calling per se, but this guy, for a team that has a need at quarterback, which you assume you're about to draft one, you want the guy like that in there who knows how to develop a quarterback and knows how to get an offense going. And that's a good thing to have. Would I be bent over backwards, just absolutely hating life if we didn't get Callahan? No, because I think there's a few other guys out there that I think we could get. But I tweeted it earlier today, man, and I tweeted it, and I've been saying it ever since up to about 2 hours ago when I saw that news about Aaron Glenn. I said, I have a very strong feeling that the Colts are not going to allow Brian Callahan to leave the building without giving him an offer at first. Oof. But now it just doesn't seem like that at all.
Yeah.
I don't know. I really do want Callahan, and that's my biggest concern right now is the fact that we know he's interviewing with you guys tomorrow. Yep. So if you guys up and decide that this is your guy and you just throw a great offer at him that he just can't refuse, that and the Colts just lost themselves a very high qualified candidate. So yeah. I don't, it sucks being in this situation.
Truly. Today, I think we did Lou Anarumo, which is the defensive coordinator from the Cincinnati Bengals today. And then tomorrow, Brian Callahan. Now a player or a coach that I would want to bring in that I believe went in with you guys as well as the Panthers, Steichen. But there was a report that came out that said that he bombed the Panthers interview. Did you hear anything about what Steichen did with you guys? Obviously, he didn't make it in the second, but I mean.
No, I didn't hear anything about the Panthers interview, but I obviously know the Colts actually flew out to Philly Tuesday to do the interview. So they didn't even request him come in. They actually went to Steichen to have the interview. So very interesting. I mean, obviously that could be for a multitude of reasons. Maybe it's because obviously he's still working on the Super Bowl. You know, he's kind of needing to be around the building, you know, to be able to do that. So taking him away from the building for a whole day can kind of be a tough thing to do. So maybe they just wanted to accompany him and make it easier on him by not having him fly all the way to Indy. But and maybe that shows that, you know, Indy does really think highly of Steichen, which, I mean, Steichen is probably my number 2 at this moment because of just how, you know, because of the way he runs the Eagles offense, just gets a lot of things. So I don't know, man. It's Steichen. I didn't hear anything about how the interview went, but obviously the Colts did something to accommodate him by going to Philly instead of having him come to Indy.
Gotcha. Yeah, we didn't bring in Steichen at all, which I would really love to at least hear him out and hear what he would have to say. But as of right now, it kind of seems like the Arizona Cardinals 3 options, or we have more options, but I think what it's leaning towards is either going to be Anarumo, Callahan, or Flores. And I think Flores has been linked over to the Arizona Cardinals because of he's been a head coach before. And on top of that, there was a connection between Monty Osenfort and him in their like New England days, and people are like linking it. So I think there is some sort of interest between them, but like he hasn't gone through the second interview. Like nobody's gone through a second interview for the Arizona Cardinals except for Dan Quinn. And Dan Quinn just decided to stay with the Cowboys. So like nothing's working out for the Cardinals at all. Sean Payton, you know, didn't work out, obviously. Way too rich for the Arizona Cardinals' blood. I don't think we can compete with that Walmart money. And just kind of what they gave up there. So let me ask you this real quick, because I want to be very mindful of your time. We got the draft coming up here pretty soon, and I want to pick your brain on this real quick before I let you go.
All good.
You're in a very, very, what are you guys sitting at the 4th spot, right? Right behind us?
Yep.
What is there any talks about moving up either to Chicago or anything like that, like kind of getting your quarterback of the future, or you guys think you're going to stay pat?
Well, I'll tell you this, man. I have sworn off thinking that I know what Chris Ballard's going to do. I have tried to pick that man's brain for a long time. And believe me, every draft process, he tends to surprise me in some way. Obviously Chicago's looking to trade out of the pick. That's clear now. And you know, hey, listen, I've even entertained the idea of trading up 1 spot with you guys. You know, I've entertained the idea because if the Colts of the top 3 quarterbacks, which we all assume is Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, and Will Levis at this point, if you're looking to get one of those three and you're happy with either of those three, trading into the top three with Arizona would be at least ensure you get one of them.
Right.
And I'm sure Arizona wouldn't mind it because then you can go to 4. You probably still get a great defensive player and you maybe pick up an extra second rounder or something for the future. So, that's a good trade offer. But yeah, I think the Colts should trade up because you look at the situation, right? Chicago's number 1 and they don't need a quarterback.
True.
The Texans are going to get one at number 2 and they're looking to maybe trade up to number 1. So, you have to worry about them. The Raiders are going to be looking for a quarterback. The Falcons might. The Panthers will. There's a bunch of teams that are right on the cusp of the top 10 that are looking to trade up to get there. And if you're looking for a team that has the best trade value right now, the Colts do, because for a team that doesn't need a quarterback, that pick number 4 for Indianapolis is perfect. Because then 2 quarterbacks at least are taken in the top 3. And that leaves you either Jalen Carter or Will Anderson still left there at number 4. So it makes total sense to do that. And, I've always thought about it. I thought maybe Arizona would, if they traded back to number 4 with Indy and then maybe traded back again to like 7 or 8, then that's great because then they still get a top defensive or offensive talent. And then they just accumulated so many extra picks for the future, which would be great. But yeah, I think the Colts should trade up. But knowing Ballard, you probably
never know.
You never know at this point.
That's
I don't know.
He's
been very adamant on his strategy, but circumstances are different now in Indy. This is the first time something like this has happened to him. And he knows his job is on the line. So he needs to go big or go home.
Yeah, honestly, that's how I felt with Steve Keim too. I just never knew what the guy was going to do. It was like, oh, this is my number 1 player in the draft. I was like, what the heck? Why'd you get him? But, it is what it is. Can you give us a prediction on who you think that the coaches or I mean, if you want to, I'm just curious to figure out who you think is going to be the next head coach of the Colts so we can kind of figure out. Because I think we're going to get our answer by Friday, at least for the Cardinals. We're going to get our answer by Friday.
Well, I will say this. I'll just say it. I mean, if Brian Callahan's leaving the building tonight, then I don't see why he would go to Indy. I'd like to get him, but I don't think that they will because they have all the power in the palm of their hand right now to get him, and they're not. So there's that. I think it's either going to be, it could be Raheem Morris. His interview lasted almost all day.
Wow.
He had like a 3-4 hour long interview with Indy that on Tuesday, I believe it was last Tuesday. So he did a really great job in his interview. Shane Steichen, I think, could really be a great one. And I know a lot of people have thrown this name around, but it makes a lot of sense if you're following the Chris Ballard trend. Eric Bieniemy's name might get popped into there. I don't know. He might get another one. I don't know.
I heard that he was going to consider being an offensive coordinator if obviously a head coaching job doesn't open up for him or no interviews, that he can actually potentially move over to another team to be an offensive coordinator because of the way that people look at him, right? Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes almost kind of seem like he gets overlooked a lot in what he does. So I'm curious. I'm curious to figure out how that's going to shake out. Do you have any questions for me before I let you go?
Yeah. Tell me again who your top 3 is. I'm curious because I know Callahan is up there, but who are the others that you're thinking of? In on that.
So yeah, Brian Callahan, Lou Anarumo, which is going to be the defensive coordinator for the Cincinnati Bengals. Something about them, like the Cincinnati assistants, I'm feeling because where we're at right now, and I think either Brian Flores, or Mike Kafka. Which is the offensive coordinator from the Giants. But he interviewed with us yesterday, I believe, and there was no really much information after Mike Kafka left. So I'm like, maybe that might not happen. But like, I think once we know, we're going to know. And I think by Friday, we're going to have all the people we need to know. And if we don't, I'll be shocked. I'll be absolutely shocked.
All right, sweet. Yeah, that's all I wanted to know on that one.
All right, brother. All right, thank you so very much for coming on, man. Thanks a lot. Have a great rest of the day, man. Peace out.
Yep. See you, dude.
Later. All right, perfect. Well, that was my guy, Derek from Bring the Juice podcast. He does exactly what I do, but with the Indianapolis Colts. I thought it was very important to bring him on to kind of get a feel of what the Colts are considering doing, because as of right now, it's the Colts and the Arizona Cardinals, the last two teams that need a head coach. And as you can tell, he sounds very similar to how we sound, right? As Arizona Cardinal fans, is like, when is this going to get done, right? When is this going to happen for the Arizona Cardinals, and let alone the Colts? And right now, there's not very much information. Now, I did predict last week that the end of last week was when we're going to get our head coach. It didn't happen, right? So we're kind of sitting in the situation right now. We have two mutual interests between the two teams. Aaron Glenn, which me and him, I don't think we're very excited about that. But I mean, if it happens, I guess it happens. And then, Brian Callahan, which he just had a second interview today with the Colts. And because they didn't sign him, we might be finding our next head coach when we interview him tomorrow, right? We'll see. I did get some contributions coming our way. Let me go ahead and make sure I highlight them. What's up, Devin? Appreciate it. He says Sean Payton was right here. Absolutely. And then he says, but I'm a Chiefs fan. Let's go. I appreciate the contribution, man. I do have one other one here from Seth. What's up, Seth? Thank you so very much. He says, hey, Mike. So this official shaved too much rigged affirmation penalties this year sounds ridiculous, so we need to bring in new officials. Oh, are you talking about just like how bad the officiating was versus the Bengals and the Chiefs game? Yeah. Oh yeah, I know. Trust me, I went through a moment of what the heck is going on with these officials, but I didn't think too much about it the next day, right? Because it's not the Cardinals, so it didn't affect me too much. But I do hope that they do get better, but we've been hoping for that for quite some time, and it just never kind of really happened. So, yeah, I think that's kind of where it's at for the Arizona Cardinals right now, right? As far as Arizona Cardinal fans, or at least the organization, that's kind of my three that I think they're going to be ending up with, right? Either Anarumo, Callahan, or Brian Flores. And like I said, the only really reason why I'm using Brian Flores' name in there is because of the link with Monty Osenfor. And I don't think they were like best friends or anything like that. And I'm not trying to sit here and say that they were, but I do think that, there is something to be said to have a person who was a head coach at one point, right? I think there's definitely something to be said about that. And Brian Flores and Vance Joseph are really the only ones on this list that were a previous head coach in the NFL. Everybody else is offensive coordinators and defensive coordinators. Now, can they work? Of course they can, right? Yeah, of course they can work. It's just one of those things that we're kind of sitting at right now where we might find ourselves with a fourth straight, right? Because Bruce Arians wasn't a head coach either. I think his first opportunity was with us in terms of an NFL head coach. Correct me if I'm wrong in the chat, though. But yeah, that would be four straight head coaches or offensive coordinators or defensive coordinators that weren't. Was Bruce Arians a head coach before? Now I got myself twisted. Okay, well let's keep it at the three, right? It would be Steve Wilkes, Cliff Kingsbury, and then this would be like if we did get like anybody else besides Brian Flores or VJ, then that would be three straight coaches that didn't have any head coaching experience. So like I guess take that how you will, right? I mean, there is something to be said where we can find a diamond in the rough, right? We definitely can find somebody out there. And I think it's just kind of one of those wait and see type of things. But like I was just talking about to Derek from Bring the Juice podcast, there is a real possibility that Eric Bieniemy might find his way onto a different team, right? As an offensive coordinator. So yesterday when we were talking about Eric Bieniemy, I think it was kind of a really cool idea if the Arizona Cardinals did kind of go after him. I think that would be kind of interesting to see something like that, right? If we get a defensive-minded, coach, then we might go after a Eric Bieniemy to see if he can kind of prove what he's been trying to prove this whole time, because nobody's really going after him in terms of a head coach. Nobody's going after him. So maybe if another opportunity arises for Eric Bieniemy, maybe he can kind of move ship and go over to a different organization. Because with the Chiefs, it doesn't seem like nobody's really giving him much of a fair chance. And I don't think anybody's looking at him and saying, oh, he's a top candidate, right? Last year he was, but this year just kind of seemed like he kind of fell through the wayside, and I don't think anything kind of came about Eric Bieniemy. So we might see him moving teams, right? We definitely might see him moving over to a different team, which I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't mind him being a offensive coordinator for the Arizona Cardinals. Shane Steichen was a name that he mentioned as well for the Colts. We never seen anything from Shane Steichen for the Arizona Cardinals. And yes, they are currently playing in the Super Bowl right now, which is definitely something to be said. But if we don't see anything by this week, like if we don't get any hires, oh my God, I don't even know like where we're going to go from here. We might be bringing up more names because the Arizona Cardinals are trying to flip every stone we possibly can, obviously, right? And we're just kind of sitting in the situation as Cardinal fans. We're waiting. We're waiting. What's up, 50-0? What's going on, man? Appreciate the contribution. He says, why leave the Bengals to come here? That's a good question. That's a good question. Well, if you think about it, I mean, that's a good question, right? I mean, if you're getting a head coaching job, you're going to get paid more, right? I think that's the biggest incentive there, right? Is that you're going to get paid more from coming from in either a defensive coordinator or an offensive coordinator, moving into a head coaching position, you're going to get paid more. That's just off the bat, right? Now, I know that there is a lot of Cardinal fans out there saying that the Cardinals are going through a rebuild mode, and there's a lot of uncertainty with Kyler Murray. And I know there's a lot of kind of people not really excited about this next coming year. Now, me, I'm excited, right? Any chance we can get, Arizona Cardinal football, I'm very excited about it, right? For the opportunity to, continue to chug along and see how we're going to be building this team. And I'm excited about it. But, I see where you're coming from. Why would he leave the Bengals to come here? The only thing I can really say is that, you get paid more as a head coach. And that's a pretty big incentive right there. But I see where you're coming from. In terms of, either Anarumo or Brian Callahan, it kind of seems like, being that they were one of the last ones, I think they seem to be the most intriguing to me as an Arizona Cardinal fan, because I think the Ajiro Aviro thing, I think that kind of faded away. Aaron Glenn, I just haven't heard anything from Aaron Glenn at all. Jonathan Gannon, I think there was something said out there that he's not going to go anywhere, that I think he's actually choosing to stay with the Philadelphia Eagles, which is actually very smart on his behalf. Brian Flores, there's nobody going after him besides us. Vance Joseph, nobody's been really talking about Vance Joseph, although he is still our defensive coordinator. Like, nobody's coming out there saying, hey, I want to hire Vance Joseph, right? So, like, it's one of those weird things. Now, there is Mike Kafka as well, Lou Anarumo, as well as Brian Callahan. But as of right now, it's kind of a wait and see type of thing. What's up, 50? Appreciate the contribution. He says, but better opening might present. Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. You're right. You're 100% right. Next year, you don't even know what's going to happen, right? Yeah, you're right there. It might be one of those situations, because if you truly think about it, the Arizona Cardinals right now, they're in a situation where we need to get a head coach, and we need to make sure that we pick the right guy. I don't want to start talking 2 years, 3 years down the road with my sign out there saying fire such and such, right? I don't want to live in that world, right? But to me, I know when a head coach is going to be a good head coach. I know. I personally do know. I knew Cliff Kingsbury wasn't going to get us a Super Bowl. Like, I truly knew that. Now, if somebody did come in here, right, like a Brian Callahan, a Lou Anarumo, right, or somebody like that completely changes the course of the future, changes the course of the culture of this Arizona Cardinal team, I'm willing to give time to that coach, truly. But I knew when Cliff Kingsbury was here, right, we were making the progressing steps, but we just never had a culture. We just never had an actual identity. He was an offensive guru, but we just never had an offensive identity with Cliff Kingsbury, and we could never win those big games. And I think that's one of the most important things. If whoever the next head coach is for the Arizona Cardinals, whether it's a defensive mind or an offensive mind, we need to get an offensive coordinator and a defensive coordinator. We need to get both. Regardless if they're offensive mind or defensive mind, I want to get an offensive coordinator. It's definitely something that needs to happen. But like, usually I know by year one and year two, right? By year one, we automatically know it's rebuild mode, right? A lot of people kind of set that in their mind. Oh, we won 3 games. Oh, we won 4 games. No worries. It's rebuild mode. To me, I'm not going to look at it that way. I'm going to look at it as, are these players getting better and better as the year goes along, right? Are we finishing strong by the end of the year? Because 17 games is a great sample size. 17 games is a great sample size to really figure out, is this the head coach that's going to be able to change the course of the future, right? Change the culture of the Arizona Cardinals. Bruce Arians did it. Oh, Bruce Arians, every single time every year came in under the Bruce Arians era, you know darn well that Bruce Arians was, we were at least in contention to make the playoffs. Not Super Bowl, right? Not Super Bowl, but at least we were in contention to make the playoffs. That's what I want to get back to, right? I want to make sure that our next head coach comes in here and changes the course of this culture, changes the course of the future. And when people think of the Arizona Cardinals, we're at least in contention to be playoff contenders, right? Not Super Bowl, but playoff contenders is what I'm kind of looking for. We got somebody in the chat says, I would trade Kyler for A-Rod. Yeah, I mean, the whole Kyler Murray topic, I know there's a lot of people out there that really kind of want to get down to the nitty-gritty with Kyler Murray. As of right now, ladies and gentlemen, we don't truly know what's going to happen with Kyler Murray, right? We don't know, right? We don't. That's probably one of the biggest things out there that most head coaches are coming in here and they're probably asking as well, right? As well as Michael Bidwell's asking them, like, how are you going to fix Kyler? Maybe these new head coaches are saying, hey, is Kyler Murray the future for forever, right? Or is there any wiggle room? You never know what's going on in these interviews, right? So there's a lot of uncertainty coming out with the Arizona Cardinals organization. Now, for me, as a Cardinal fan, I'm a believer in Kyler Murray. I truly am. And I know that really makes a lot of people mad. That makes a lot of people irk. And they don't like that, right? They don't like me that I'm trying to be positive. But I'm always going to look at this mindset. We're better with Kyler Murray than we are without him, right? And I think it's very important to see Kyler Murray with a head coach. Well, at one point, I would have said a head coach that, has proved in something in the NFL, which at this very moment, if you're looking at, the list, the only one who has been a head coach in the NFL is Brian Flores that has had a winning record, because everybody else is going to be a wild card. We don't know, right? We don't truly know. We don't truly know how this future is going to end up, right? Are we going to be a 500 team by the time Kyler Murray comes back? And Kyler Murray is going to have to, wield all his power to get us into a playoff push, right? Maybe not playoffs, but a playoff push, right? Is that going to be a situation? Or, are we just going to be an 0-8 team and Kyler Murray is going to come back and we're just going to be like, oh, it's rebuilding, no worries, right? It's a lot of uncertainty, a lot of unknown for this Arizona Cardinal organization. And I'm excited about this future. I am, especially more for the draft more than anything, but I'm still a believer in Kyler Murray. Personally, I'm still a believer in Kyler. We got somebody in the chat says, out of all the people left, I want Brian Callahan or Shane Steichen. Well, today we spoke with Lou Anarumo is who we spoke with today. Tomorrow we will be speaking with Brian Callahan. And we did have a guest on earlier. We had Derek from Bring the Juice podcast, which is a Indianapolis Colts fan. And then one of the main reasons why I ended up bringing him here is that because both of us are still waiting for our head coach, right? We're literally the only two people standing without a head coach. So I wanted to kind of pick his brain to kind of figure out what's happening, in their account for Brian Callahan. Because if you truly think about it, Brian Callahan, per this report, he was with the Indianapolis Colts today, and it was for his second interview with the Colts. But the Colts let him leave. The Colts let him leave in a second interview. So the Arizona Cardinals might have to pull something, right? The Arizona Cardinals might have to pull a complete turnaround for an opportunity to possibly get, Brian Callahan. And if, like he said, if we give him an offer he can't refuse, I think it's for the best interest for the Arizona Cardinals to strike when obviously the pan is hot. So we'll see, right? We'll see. Let's keep on reading into the comments. We got something in the chat saying I'm still loyal to Kyler. Yes, I am too. I know there's a lot of heat coming from Kyler Murray right now. There's a lot of heat. And if you don't believe it, open Twitter. If you don't believe it, open any social media. If you don't believe it, and listen to probably any other podcast out there. And there's some people that don't believe in Kyler. I do. I do. Now I get he does have his, what I'm gonna say, quirks. He does have his flaws. I guess that's the best way to say it. He does have his flaws, and I think a lot of people could admit that he's got his flaws. But I think in the grand scheme of things here, that Kyler Murray is the quarterback of the head coach, A, because he is under contract, and B, we are better with Kyler than we are without him. Right? We're better with him than we are without him. So it's kind of how I narrow it down to, at least in my mind. So we'll see. Got somebody in the chat says, anybody but Flores. All right. I mean, yeah. So that's the thing, right? I mean, we're going to have a good, fair share of people, right? Either or, right? The way that they're going to look at it. Some people want Flores, right? And some people don't want Flores, right? And I think one of the big reasons why people don't want Flores is because of the dynamic between Kyler Murray and Brian Flores. It's going to be fireworks. Let me just say that right now. The way that Kyler Murray screamed at Cliff Kingsbury, I almost promise you that will not be accepted. That will not be acceptable under a Brian Flores led Arizona Cardinals team if he were to get hired. But like, if you truly think about it, people in the chat, thank you so much for being here, by the way. If you truly think about it, this next coach is so darn crucial because we got to think of it this way. When we bring in the next head coach, this coach isn't supposed to be, oh, this is a Band-Aid, right? This is a Band-Aid. This is a bridge head coach. No, the mindset is this is going to be our head coach for the future. So I think that's one of the main reasons why the Arizona Cardinals didn't go Sean Payton, which I still truly believe we could technically have gotten Sean Payton still, but we didn't want to accommodate to their compensation. Okay, no worries. But now it gives us an opportunity to really, really come down to the nitty gritty and figure out who of these guys, right, that are available still, your Ajiro Vero, your Aaron Glenn, your Brian Flores, your Mike Kafka, your Vance Joseph, Lou Anarumo, Brian Callahan, those people, you really get an option to say, okay, well, let me really figure out what your plan is, right? What your plan is, because Monty Osenfort and Michael Bidwell need to make this decision. And I only hope that they're going to make this fast. But it doesn't seem like they're going to make it fast because right now we're sitting in February the 1st, ladies and gentlemen, February the 1st, and we still don't have our head coach of the future. I'm only guesstimating that by Friday we're going to get it, right? Because tomorrow we're going to be meeting with Brian Callahan. Hey, we might get our answer tomorrow, right? It might be Brian Callahan. We might not let him leave. We never know. The Colts interviewed him twice. This is the first time the Arizona Cardinals are going to meet with them. So at this very moment, we'll see. We'll see. We got somebody in the chat says, I'll settle for Lou A, which is Lou Anarumo. And that's the thing. Like, I hate the fact that we're settling, right? Like, I hate the fact that we're settling. And that's what it feels like, right? Cardinal fans in the chat, like, do you truly feel like we're settling? Let me know in the chat below, because it does feel like that. I'm not going to lie to you. It does feel like that. Now, if we're going to be bringing in somebody and he works for us, then this offseason is moot, right? It doesn't matter how long it took, right? We got our guy of the future. But to some Cardinal fans, including myself, and please keep in mind that this Sean Payton breaking news is still fresh, right? It's still fresh. Yes, it took about 24 hours for us to be here at this very moment from that news breaking, but it does kind of feel like we're settling. It does, right? Like, oh, we're going to settle for this person. Oh, we're going to do this, right? But was this really truly the person that we wanted to get? Now, I don't think even the Cardinals knew who we wanted to get. Like, I think that's kind of one of the situations that we're in right now. I don't think we knew who we wanted to get. That's why we casted a big list of people to come in to interview. And I don't want to feel like we're settling in. And right now it does kind of feel like it. But like I said, in a few years, we'll know for sure if this head coach is going to be the future of the Arizona Cardinals moving forward. So we'll see. Got some people in the chat says yes. Somebody says, why not? No Jeff Saturday. Please no. Well, we got someone in the chat says the Cardinals management is gutless. Well, the thing is that, like, I call it Wally World money, but Walmart money, it's so hard to compete with that. And I hate that excuse. Like, as a Cardinal fan, right, you can look at Twitter and almost everybody on Twitter that knew that the Cardinals weren't going to be in contention to get Sean Payton, right? That's one of the biggest things that they use. Oh, look at Michael Bidwell, right? Michael Bidwell will not do something like this. And I really did hope that the Arizona Cardinals were going to take a different approach this year. I truly did. I thought the Arizona Cardinals were going to take the approach of, hey, right, let's hit one out of the park, right? Let's get our fan base excited about the 2023 season. And who would have that been, right? That would have either been Jim Harbaugh, not to a lot of people, but some people. It would have been to Jim Harbaugh, or it would have been Sean Payton. That right there, regardless of what happens to Sean Payton would have been the future head coach of the Arizona Cardinals. regardless, if Kyler Murray doesn't work, Sean Payton would have outlasted Kyler Murray. Is the way that I was looking at it, right? Now, I hope that Kyler Murray works with Sean Payton if that was to happen, but it didn't, right? But the way that my mind was that Sean Payton was the future, right? If we were to sign him, he's the future coach of the Arizona Cardinals. He's proven it. He's won a Super Bowl. He's had a winning record, but obviously it didn't shake out that way. So we're going to have to take a chance, right? We're going to have to take a chance on one of these individuals. Giro Viro, Aaron Glenn, Brian Flores, Vance Joseph. Please don't let it be Vance Joseph. Please, please. Brian Callahan or Lou Anarumo. So it's a lot, right? It's a lot to kind of unfold as a Cardinal fan. And I know a lot of people in the chat here right now, they kind of, well, not a lot of them, but some people feel like I feel, right? Like the settling, right? The thought of settling. I just hope that a different culture is changed moving forward here. Got someone in the chat say, "In Monty we trust." I hope so, brother. I hope so. And like I said, I'm going to support any head coach that comes in here. I'm going to support any head coach that comes in here. Is the way I'm going to look at it. But I do know for a fact that by the end of year one, bleeding into year two, I'm going to know if this is going to be the head coach of the future for the Arizona Cardinals. I'm going to know. Like, I knew Cliff Kingsbury wasn't it. Like, I already knew Cliff wasn't it. Now, it took a lot of people to battle, right? It took a lot of people to kind of fight off because everybody kind of kept telling me the same thing. Mike, he's progressing. Mike, he's doing better and better and better. Eventually, the straw that broke the camel's back was going to, break through, right? And that's what happened. Injuries happened, and we just looked really bad. So I'm excited to see what this next head coach is going to look like for the Arizona Cardinals. It can be any which way. And I think that's kind of the exciting, but also scary part, heading into next week. Because right now it's Wednesday. We got Thursday and Friday before we hit the weekend. And this the Pro Bowl. I'm not watching no damn Pro Bowl. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to watch the Pro Bowl. I'm not going to watch the Pro Bowl. I'm not sure if you guys are going to watch it, but I'm not going to watch it. So there's that, right? So we'll see. We'll see. Got some people in the chat says, we have somebody saying Anarumo was my choice. I honestly, I wouldn't mind that. I truly wouldn't. Flores is my choice. Okay. We got somebody in the chat says, watch, I know we're getting Brian Callahan. I got money. Well, Brian Callahan might happen. Truly. I saw a video that Tom Pelissero ended up putting out pertaining to who is like Brian Callahan. And truthfully, Brian Callahan looks very good. Sorry, tongue-tied. Brian Callahan worked with two different good quarterbacks, right? Two different good quarterbacks. Joe Burrow, which we all know. But not only that, ladies and gentlemen, he also worked with Peyton Manning. He worked with Peyton Manning during the Bronco days. And there was a clip that Peyton Manning ended up coming out and saying that he owed a lot to what his progression was with the Broncos to Brian Callahan. So honestly, it's actually kind of exciting, to be honest with you. Like, if I'm going to be very excited, like, he worked with, Joe Burrow, and he's worked with, Peyton Manning. Now, please keep in mind that a lot of these videos that, people see, they're meant to boost up interest for this individual. So definitely keep that in mind. But yeah, I mean, he's worked with two different, quarterbacks that really worked out very well in the NFL. Peyton Manning in his later years, and then also Joe Burrow. So he's interesting. He's definitely very interesting. What's up, M. Lopez? Why not John Gruden? Serious question? Is this a serious question? No, I'm just curious. I just think John Gruden is done. Like, truly, I think John Gruden is done in the NFL. There was a lot of the reason why he ended up leaving, or he got fired from the Raiders, was because that whole chain of emails that happened with like derogatory words, and I don't think he's going to be coming back to the NFL. I truly don't. That whole situation's a mess, and I truly don't think he's going to be a coach of the Arizona Cardinals or anybody, or at least not anytime soon. Maybe in 10 years, maybe in 5 years. I don't know, right? But as of right now, I don't think his name was even in the thoughts, in the mentions of that happening. Here we go. We got Brandon in the chat saying Anarumo and Bieniemy. Yes, hopefully you were here on my yesterday stream because I mentioned that actually sounds kind of cool to me, right? You bring in a defensive-minded head coach in there like a Lou Anarumo, right? And then you get Eric Bieniemy because of the rumors that were happening that he wants to move over to a different team, right? Like that actually got me really excited. That got me like pumped up, like, oh, that actually sounds pretty cool. So if you weren't here yesterday, then great minds think alike then. Great minds think alike because I'm in that same boat too. I felt the exact same way. Got some people in the chat saying, "Oh, you were okay, perfect." Yeah, yeah. Honestly, that sounds cool to me, right? Lou Anarumo and Eric Bieniemy. I think that sounds cool. But Lou Anarumo's interview was today. Just FYI, it was today, and that's the thing. Like the Cardinals are keeping it so hush hush right now. We don't know what's happening at all. We don't know what's happening with the Arizona Cardinals. We're only kind of going based off the reports that we're getting from like those big, insiders like your Ian Rappaport, Adam Schefter, that type of big reports out there, and it's just we don't really know what's going to happen, right? It's kind of one of those things. So something in the chat says we're not letting go of Vance Joseph though. I don't know. We don't know if there is going to be a head coach coming in here and saying that I have my own defensive coordinator. We might see Vance Joseph go. Maybe that might be one of those things, right? Maybe Michael Bidwell is telling the candidates, hey, we have your defensive coordinator already. You don't have to worry about it. And maybe people don't want that, right? I don't know. On the chat says Callahan seems suspect just looking at his QB history. Well, he's still very young. Callahan is still very young. He's like, what, 38, 39, something like that? I mean, he's worked with Peyton Manning. He's worked with Joe Burrow, which is pretty cool, right? I know that doesn't translate to be a good head coach. I'm fully aware that it doesn't translate to be a good head coach. But, I mean, it does give us some sort of, I guess, intrigue, some sort of excitement for that, right? But, like, leaning towards what the Arizona Cardinals are going to do, it really does feel like the Arizona Cardinals are going to go the route of either a defensive coordinator or an offensive coordinator for our next head coach. I don't think it's going to be anybody that had previous head coaching experience because right now the list is only Brian Flores and VJ. You know what I mean? That's the list of people who were previous coaches before, and I don't think it's going to happen. I got somebody in the chat say that. Okay, let's keep reading here. 38, yeah, 38 years old. Someone in the chat says, let's get Callahan, Anarumo, Shea. Man, you want to get everybody. Sheesh. Let's keep reading to the chat here. Someone in the chat says, Warner worked with Jalen Hurts. I don't know if you're talking about Kurt Warner. I don't know what Warner you're talking about. Somebody said Tom Brady as the OC. Yeah, I doubt that, man. I doubt. I heard that Tom Brady wants to go into broadcasting is what I heard, like kind of like a Tony Romo type of thing. That's what I heard. That was the latest rumor out there. The latest rumor out there was that. So we'll see, right? We'll see what happens. We truly will see. We got somebody in the chat that says Steichen's still on the. I don't think Steichen was ever on the radar. He was in my top in terms of coaches that I would love to see, but I don't think Steichen was ever on the radar for the Arizona Cardinals. His name never popped up. And I'm surprised. I truly wanted to bring Shane Steichen in at least for an opportunity, right? At least for an opportunity. He just never came about. He never came in. So I don't know. Like if we somehow still bring in more names next week, like this is going to be one of the longest we have to wait for our next head coach. It's going to be a long, long time before we figure that out. But it seems like maybe one of these offensive or one of these assistants for what am I trying to say? Sorry. The Cincinnati Bengals looks to be maybe one of those two, but we'll see. Something in the chest is out. I'd avoid Steichen. I mean, I know there was a kind of a report that came out saying that Steichen didn't do very well in terms of like his interview, but like, I don't know. I'm keeping all options open at this very moment. Like, I love what Nick Sirianni does over there, right, with the Philadelphia Eagles. And I think Shane Steichen somehow has at least some percentage of what Jalen Hurts has become. And I think that kind of gives me excitement, right? As an Arizona Cardinal fan, that gives me a little bit of an excitement right there, being that like it's exciting, right? It's exciting. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Let's see here. Something in the chat says, is Cliff Kingsbury available? Sheesh. Sheesh. Too early, man. Too early. Too early. Yeah, we got some people just throwing some random names right now. That's how bad it is, right? I think I saw somebody on Twitter saying something like we're currently interviewing like a GM from Taco Bell right now, right? Like that's how bad it is right now for Cardinal fans. We're just waiting, y'all. We're just waiting and figuring out who's going to be it. What we know right now was that Mike Kafka interviewed yesterday. We know that today was Lou Anarumo, and then what we know is tomorrow's Brian Callahan, and that the Colts interviewed Brian Callahan twice, in that there was really no movement after that from the Colts, but there might be some interest for the Arizona Cardinals kind of moving forward. So we'll have to kind of wait and see, right? Fingers crossed there. All right, y'all. So let's do this. I appreciate everybody for coming through. We haven't hit the hour mark, but I really wanted to specifically focus this stream on talking about, if you didn't catch the beginning of the stream, we ended up talking to our good friend over there, Derek from Bring the Juice podcast. He is a Colts fan, and he knows a lot more in the know with the Colts organization and what's going on over there. I wanted to focus this stream specifically on, hey, who's going to be the next guy, right? Who's going to be the next domino to fall? Is it going to be them? Is it going to be us? I don't know. I think we're going to get a head coach by this coming Friday. If we don't, and we start throwing more names out next week, the wait continues for the Arizona Cardinals, but I guess this is what Monty Osenfor and Michael Bidwell said that they're going to do. So we're going to have to allow them to continue to dig and, continue to throw that wide net out there, continue to flip all the, the stones and figure out how this is going to work out here for the Arizona Cardinals moving forward. So as of right now, if I were to put my best guess out there, I would say Friday we're going to know our next head coach, and that we will be getting our head coach over the Colts first, at least. I could be wrong. I could be wrong, and I've been wrong plenty of times because I'd never know what this organization is doing, right? We can put our best as educated guests out there, and we just 100% never know what's going to happen. So appreciate everybody for tuning in. If you guys haven't done so already, definitely do me a huge favor. Smack the like button and subscribe for more Arizona Cardinals content. Subscribe it up. We're on the road to 12K, ladies and gentlemen. Can't do it without you guys. So if you truly did enjoy this conversation, subscribe it up. It's free. It's just that little red button right there. Click it and go ahead and put your post notification bell on just so you're aware of when we drop the next video or when we go live. Any breaking news, anything like that. So definitely go ahead, smack the like button, subscribe it up. And I appreciate you guys for tuning in. I think we capped out on a lot of people here today. So I appreciate everybody for coming through. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking to everybody. Have a great rest of your day. And as always, go Cards.